Good morning and welcome back to Wildfather Bets, guys. We are going to take a look at the NFL landscape after Week 9. This is going to be more about actually looking at the playoff picture than it is kind of a wrap-up on Week 9. There's a few things in Week 9 that are important, though, to touch as it comes to this photo, especially the Bills-Chiefs game, as well as the Broncos getting that win over the Texans with C.J. Stroud out. Those are impacts that you have with regards to the playoff picture. They're actually pretty significant. Also, we will be giving you two more college plays, two more NFL plays, and then adding more units on one of our plays that we already gave you yesterday. So NFL landscape, and what I really want to touch on here, we're going to start with the AFC because this is starting to get quite interesting. Bills took that win over the Chiefs, which gives them a head-to-head tiebreaker over the Chiefs if that were to come into play. Bills currently trail the Patriots in the division. You could argue maybe that won't hold, but the Patriots have a win over the Bills in Buffalo. You also have now the Broncos with a 2-game lead over the Chiefs. However, they still have to play each other twice. The Broncos are now favored to win that division. The Broncos have wins over the Titans, the Joe Burrow-less Bengals, a 1-point win over the Giants, a 2-point win over the Jets, and now a 3-point win over the Texans in a game where they were getting thoroughly dominated up until C.J. Stroud went out with a concussion, in which they still got thoroughly dominated even after he went out with a concussion. So they have a 2-game lead over the Chiefs, but they still have to play each other 2 more times. Chiefs to win that division is probably my favorite futures bet in the NFL right now. On top of that, you have a couple of things here, though, that could go the Broncos' way and could go the Patriots' way, meaning that you could end up having the Chiefs and the Bills in a wild card spot going forward, which, unless the Ravens were to win their division, which you guys know I kind of do think they will, I would love the path for either the Chiefs or the Bills to get to the Super Bowl at that point. Will a wild card team win the Super Bowl is a prop that some books offer. It's potentially worth a yes right now if you have either the Chiefs or the Bills in a wild card spot, or if you have both of them in a wild card spot. The Patriots, I think, are a better team than the Broncos. Or the Patriots have proven more so far than the Broncos in terms of what they've done with their schedule. They've also played a pretty easy schedule. It isn't quite as damning as what you're seeing with 2-point wins against the Jets, 1-point win against the Giants, 3-point win against the C.J. Stroudless Texans, beating up on the Bengals without Joe Burrow, beating the Titans by only 1 possession like you have with the Broncos. But it's significant enough that there's questions with the Patriots as well. So with this playoff picture starting to take form, you could essentially have the division winners, the top 4 seeds, being the Colts, being the Patriots, AFC West, being the Broncos, and being the Ravens, or being the Steelers. And then you have the Chiefs and the Bills in a wild card spot. Which one of those division winners outside of the Ravens really scares you in terms of Allen or Mahomes going on the road in a playoff game and being able to get a win? Not saying it's a guarantee it will happen, but you saw what happened with the Colts this past week when defenses kind of started to play them a little bit different. Really what they did is defenses played cover 2 and cover 3 on 1st and 2nd down. The Steelers played cover 2 and cover 3 on 1st and 2nd down against the Colts and took away a lot of their 1st down big plays that they've been getting. And then they were down late, and so they weren't able to turn it over to Jonathan Taylor to get a lead. I have faith that the Chiefs will be able to do that with Steve Spagnuolo and his defense. Bills are a little bit different, but again, Bills always in a playoff situation are also another animal because they're going to run Allen a lot more than they do in the regular season. And that makes them significantly harder to defend. And again, we're coming off a game with the Bills and the Chiefs where that's the most impressive win I've seen by the Bills in maybe 2 years, because they didn't just beat the Chiefs like in terms of the way they usually beat teams, which is they get up on them early and then they blow them out, it's over. They physically beat the Chiefs, which you haven't said that about a Bills and a Chiefs game in maybe ever. It's been a long time that you said the Bills physically beat the Chiefs at the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what they did in that game. So, will a wild card team win the Super Bowl? That prop is worth a yes at this point because it's going to be for plus money. Chiefs to win the AFC West because the Broncos are currently favored, but they still have to play the Chiefs twice, and the Broncos give you a lot of questions in terms of, are they actually an elite superior team? And then also looking at that AFC East, the Bills are still favored to win it. So your value isn't going to be as good as taking the Chiefs to win the AFC West. But really, whoever you like between the Patriots and the Bills, you're getting decent money on either ticket right now. Mainly because the Patriots have a lead over the Bills, and they know that they still have the game at home against the Bills. And secondly, because people don't 100% trust the Patriots yet. So even mathematically, with the advantage that they have, you're still getting good value on that ticket because perception is the Bills will come back and win that division. And that's what the books are essentially banking on, what the bettors are gonna book at. NFC. I told you how much I loved the Seahawks. DVOA tells you that is the best team in the NFC, and it is not close. And I'm starting to semi-agree with DVOA. I told you that they're my favorite to make the Super Bowl. After this past week, I'm starting to think the gap between them and whoever the second best team in the NFC is growing. The second best team may be the Rams, and maybe in their own division. But then that's even more important, because if the Seahawks hold on to win that division, then the Rams at best can get a 5th seed. And so now you're forcing what may be the second best team in your division, in your conference, into a wild card spot. Seahawks to make the Super Bowl, Seahawks to win the Super Bowl are both tickets that you want to have right now. It's not too late quite yet, because public perception still hasn't caught up to actually how good that team is when you look at all the metrics and what they've done. They are now getting to a point where they're catching, after the Colts' performance against the Steelers and their performance against the Commanders, they're catching the Colts in terms of DVOA, which we told you was having the best DVOA of any season since the 2007 Patriots, going up until last week. And that's how good and how dominant the Seahawks have been. NFC North. Will all 4 teams make the playoff? You should give a no on that. I haven't seen a prop bet to know what the odds are, but with what you have going on in the NFC West between the Rams, the 49ers I think ultimately probably won't be able to catch up with all of their injuries, but they're an amazing team, maybe they do. But what you have going on with the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 49ers, the NFC West is going to get one of those wild card spots, and I still don't quite trust J.J. McCarthy at this point. He's had a couple of good games now, but he's also had some really, really difficult showings. The Vikings beat the Lions mainly because they were able to get pressure on Jared Goff, which is essentially the how you beat the Lions formula since Goff has been there, because he's the most accurate pocket passer in the NFL, but he's one of the worst scramble drill quarterbacks in the NFL, and he can't get off his spot. He doesn't have really any mobility. JJ played well, but that wasn't why the Vikings won that game. Yes, and they did get a division win at Detroit, which is huge. After what you guys have seen in the NFL this year, do you think that one of the Rams or Seahawks is not making the playoffs? Because if you say yes, all 4 NFC North teams are making the playoffs, that's what you're signing up for. And the book wants you to make that yes bet. They're enticing you with that yes bet. So either lay off of it or bet the no, depending on what the juice and the odds are. NFC North winner. You got to be looking at the Packers still. I know they've had some issues. I know it seems like they play down to competition, up to other competition, etc. But with some of the inconsistency that you've seen with the Lions, now the fact that they have a head-to-head win against them, and now the Lions have dropped another game in the division, and the fact that the Packers had that game where they tied, and that comes into effect if you have the same amount of wins, the team that has that tie then holds the tiebreaker because they have one less loss. That's something that's important. And you can still get semi-decent value on the Packers to win that division because of how good the public perception on the Lions is. NFC East, unfortunately, I think we're going to be wrong with our preseason, and mainly because the Commanders have completely fallen apart when it comes to injuries, as well as losing Jaden Daniels. It would appear, unless something drastic happens, and the Eagles suffer a bunch of injuries, but they made moves at the deadline. They got better. They always do. Howie Roseman's phenomenal. It would appear that for the first time in 20 years or over 20 years, we're going to have a repeat winner in the NFC East. And it will be the Eagles. I would just stay away from anything around that right now. I would not take the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, not over the Rams, Seahawks, Packers, Lions right now. I wouldn't do it, but I would just stay away. They do appear that they're going to win the NFC East. NFC South, the value bet is the Falcons. Bucks have won the division 4 years in a row. They're probably going to win at 5. If you want value, though, right now, your value's on the Falcons to win that. Dropping that game against the Patriots by 1 point and essentially doing it again because they have no kicker, just like they dropped earlier games this season when they released Koo. It's got to come back to bite them at some point. And yes, the Bucks aren't. They've had cardiac wins, and maybe they're not the most dominant team, but they're 6-2. And at this point, you do have to take into account teams' records when looking at the value. You have to see, is it mathematically, yes, I'm getting great value on X team to win Y division. Is it mathematically possible or even probable that they can overcome what the division leading record is? This would be tough for the Falcons to do over the Bucks. They could do it, though. If you want value in that division, you're taking the Falcons to win the NFC South. That's it, guys. Really the main ones that I love right now are Chiefs to win the AFC West, Seahawks to win the Super Bowl or make it to the Super Bowl. Yes on will a wild card team win the Super Bowl, because the chances that you have both the Chiefs and the Bills in that situation. Concern there is them going to Baltimore, and the fact that Baltimore then would have home field advantage over both those teams the rest of the playoffs. Do not take a bet on will all 4 NFC North teams make the playoffs. That's not a smart one. And then also the Packers to win the NFC North. Those are the ones that we're looking at right now. Okay, told you we're going to give you a few more plays. So for Friday night, we are taking Tulane plus 5.5 for 3 units. A little bit of overvalue with Memphis right now, especially now that the playoff committee rankings are released and people are seeing that Memphis is the group of 5 team. A little bit too much love for Memphis, and we've actually had some line movement in this line come down. And the reason is because Tulane actually matches up quite well with Memphis. I know Tulane just kind of dropped one that didn't make any sense. I think some of that maybe had to do with the Summerall news. Usually those things get cleaned up after a week. Memphis still, yes, they had that amazing win over USF, but Memphis is still a flawed team. This is too many points for a game that has quite a bit of meaning and matters a lot. Then we're adding Iowa plus 7 for 5 units against Oregon. And then in the Tulane-Memphis one, you guys can take that down to anything. Tulane plus 4.5. Iowa plus 7 against Oregon. I'm comfortable taking it down to anything. Iowa plus 6. It's going to be an ugly game. I told you guys yesterday I kind of think Oregon's going to miss the playoffs. Pretty bold take by me, given they're like minus 375 to make it. It's pretty hard for them to miss if they beat Iowa. So obviously I think Iowa's live in this game. I just think that Oregon isn't quite as good as maybe what the perception was of them earlier in the season. And they haven't been doing as good since then, but people haven't been watching the games because the Big Ten hasn't really been as intriguing to watch this year. Oregon's struggling with a few things, especially their offense when they don't have explosive run plays. Iowa doesn't really give up explosive run plays. So we like Iowa plus the 7 here for 5 units. Comfortable taking that anything down to Iowa plus 6. We are going to add 5 additional units on Texas Tech minus 9.5. So we now have Texas Tech minus 9.5 for 15 units. That matches one of my favorite plays of the year. So the highest we've gone so far is 15 units on a play this year. So clearly we love this one. I think they blow them out, but we'll see. I've been wrong on BYU all year. And then in NFL Sunday, we're taking the Ravens minus the 3.5 for 5 units against the Vikings. Again, this is Lamar Jackson versus the NFC, and Lamar Jackson versus Brian Flores, and Lamar Jackson versus a defensive coordinator who loves to blitz him. Models would tell you this is actually probably a 3-point game. I'm willing to lay the additional hook there with Lamar in this situation. Taking anything up to Ravens minus 4. And then also in the early window on Sunday in the Germany game, we're taking the Falcons plus 7 for 5 units against the Colts. I really like the 7 in this one. That's why I grabbed it. You can take it down to anything Falcons plus 6, but I would drop the unit amount a little bit to 3 or to 2 or to 4, whatever you're comfortable with. But we do like the Falcons in this spot. Think a little bit of the formula on how to beat the Colts got exposed last week. And trust the Falcons team to be able to expose it again. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. We'll be back at you again tomorrow night for Thursday Night Football, where we'll have a fresh pick. It's one of the first Thursday Night Football games where when we make the video, it'll be the first time you guys have actually heard the pick. Terrible football game, though. Broncos and Raiders. God. I feel bad for Al and Kirk, but you know, what are you going to do? Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Notifications on so you know when we post. Give this video some love, like, share, comment. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the NFL landscape.